You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hello, and thanks for joining Revolution 250, where we look at events that took place 250 years ago this week. This is from the American Revolution Podcast, just a short bonus episode to remind you about these important anniversaries of the Revolutionary War. This week, we remember the Battle of Gloucester. The first week of August 1775 was a relatively quiet one. On August 3rd, General Washington held a council of war to discuss how they could address the fact that the Continental Army was almost completely out of gunpowder. Later in the week, Captain Daniel Morgan arrived in Cambridge with his company of Virginia riflemen. These were the first soldiers from Virginia, aside from a few generals, to join the Continental Army. The big news for the week, though, was a naval skirmish off the coast of Gloucester, Massachusetts. The British Navy was trying to shut down all ship-based commerce in the colonies. Another part of the Navy's mission was to find supplies for the British Army in Boston. Captain John Lindsay commanded the British sloop of war, the Falcon. This was a relatively small ship with only 16 cannons. On August 5th, the Falcon deployed 50 sailors and Marines to capture a flock of sheep near Gloucester. The locals managed to gather about 6 men armed with muskets. They began firing on the British from a concealed position. The foraging party ended up withdrawing back to their ship. A few days later, on August 8th, the Falcon spotted 2 merchant ships headed for Salem. They managed to capture one of the ships, but the other fled into Gloucester Harbor. The Falcon, along with the captured ship that was now being sailed by a prize crew, entered the harbor in hopes of capturing that second ship. They soon found their target, which had grounded itself on a sandbar. When the people of Gloucester spotted the British ship, they sounded the alarm and assembled the local militia. The British launched several longboats to take possession of the grounded ship, as several companies of local militia gathered. The militia opened fire on the boats, killing 3 and wounding several more. In response, Captain Lindsay moved the Falcon into position to bombard the town with his cannons. Now, this was mostly meant to distract the enemy militia so that his crew could get the prize ship off the sandbar and back into open sea. The Falcon's cannon fire damaged a few buildings, but didn't have much of an impact. Lindsay then deployed a crew to take a longboat to the shore and set the town on fire. Several members of Lindsay's crew were actually Americans who had been pressed into service against their will. Several of these men were from Gloucester. One of the men set fire to the powder that the British had brought to destroy the town, causing it to explode with minimal damage. The American sailor then took the opportunity to desert. The rest of the British crew that had gone ashore was captured. Captain Lindsay then sent another boat to Fort Point in hopes of burning that area. The alert militia surrounded the British landing party and captured them as well. By evening, Lindsay sent in the captured prize ship to assist the crew aboard the grounded schooner. The original crew of the prize ship then rose up and attacked the British prize crew that had taken control of their ship. With the rescue ship back in American hands, the British aboard the grounded schooner also had to surrender to the Americans. In the end, 3 British sailors were killed and 1 wounded. 24 British sailors and Marines were captured as prisoners of war. Several Americans who had been pressed into British service were allowed to go home. The Gloucester militia suffered 2 dead and 1 wounded. The following morning, the Falcon sailed away from Gloucester without either of its prize ships and a much smaller crew. I hope you've enjoyed this Revolution 250 moment. For more of the story, please visit your favorite podcast platform, places such as Apple or Spotify, and subscribe for free to the American Revolution Podcast.